This meeting is being recorded.
All right. Hello and welcome to Good News in Parks, everybody. And here we are. It is the very last episode. We are so honored that you guys joined us today. When we started this 3 years ago, it was in response to the pandemic to create a way for parks professionals to feel the love of others in the industry and hear how firsthand most departments were going through exactly the same things. And we've shared, we laughed, we've sympathized, and we heard some amazing ideas from the directors that joined us over the 3 seasons. Wow. And honestly, what I really love is how we helped so many people who aren't in this industry truly understand all the different ways that park and recreation serve communities, in addition to the green spaces that everybody knows and loves. So I am honored to have been able to serve along with Jody Adams, who is a legend in this industry. It has been an amazing ride, and we are joined today by 3 additional legends in the industry, and we can't wait to hear from them. So before I get emotional, I'm going to turn it over to Jody, and let's do this thing.
Well, again, Emery, thanks again. What a ride, but I can tell you right now, if Playcore and Game Time had not stepped up and provided the platform, we could not be here today. So I want to thank you right at the beginning for creating and sticking with this for 3 years. That's a long time for a national show. So let's get started with our guest. Anthony Paul Diaz, known as AP, Superintendent, Seattle, Washington, Parks and Recreation Department, former executive officer and assistant general manager for the city of Los Angeles, California. His duties included all governance, legal, and policy matters related to the city's Parks Commission, City Council, City Attorney's Office, this makes me tired, AP, Mayor's Office, and LA Park Foundation. Prior to joining the Parks and Recreation Department, he served as a deputy city attorney for the city of Los Angeles. He is currently executive board member on the World Urban Parks, and also a past chair of the NRPA Editorial Magazine Committee. AP, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Thank you, panelists. Good morning.
Good morning. Reneé Johnson, Assistant Director, City of Dallas, Texas, Parks and Recreation Department, where she has served in numerous roles with the department over the years. She is also the retired Managing Director of Parks and Recreation for the city of DeSoto, Texas, where she also served a short stint, but an important stint of interim city manager. She is a graduate of the National Forum for Black Public Administrators and is a leader with the North Texas chapter of NFBPA. She also is a member, this is so exciting, she is a member of the host city leadership team for the up and coming 2023 National Recreation Park Association Conference. Welcome to the show, Reneé.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for letting me be here. I can't wait for today.
Absolutely. And Justin Cutler, he is a dynamo. Commissioner, City of Atlanta, Georgia, Parks and Recreation Department. Prior to joining the City of Atlanta, he served in executive leadership roles with the City of Seattle, Washington, City of Westminster, Colorado, Sunset Empire Parks and Recreation, Oregon, and Lapine, Oregon Parks and Recreation District. He is the founder and former CEO of Rex RX. Oh, I remember when that came about. He is a past affiliate faculty member with Metropolitan State University in Denver. He has also served in leadership roles with Colorado Parks and Recreation Association and the Oregon Park and Recreation Association. Justin, great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Look forward to chatting with AP and Reneé. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Fantastic. All right. Good news, national news. Just a couple of nuggets here. Gold medal agencies. Let's get those applications going. Now, folks, you do qualify more than you have any idea. Get with your teams, all different levels of population categories, and look that over at nrpa.org or the American Academy website at aapra.com or .org, sorry. Please look up that application. That deadline is March 3rd. So you've got plenty of time to apply for the gold medal award this coming year. Also, I want to turn it over to Reneé for a minute or so. You are hosting our national conference, which is one of the biggest things in our field that ever happens. Thousands of our colleagues and friends. Reneé, give us a couple of just updates and what do we have to look for?
Well, all I can say is get ready for the big D, okay? And that is Dallas, Texas. We do it big in the state of Texas. Oh, yes, we do. Now, first of all, I want you all to know that I attended my first National Park and Recreation Conference way back in 1991. It was Cincinnati, Ohio. And since then, of course, we've been to so many cities. But what I can tell you, there is no place like the Big D with the Dallas Cowboys and our downtown park master system. I can't wait until you all are here walking our city downtown and seeing our downtown park master, our park system. What I can tell you is that Big Tex is going to be here that week. And do you all know who Big Tex is? If you have not been to the State Fair of Texas, oh, don't miss it when you get here. When I moved here from Michigan about 20 years ago, and they said, oh, you got to go to the fair. And I'm thinking, it's just the fair. What's the big deal? No, Big Tex and the state of Texas and the State Fair, you got to get there one night while you're here. So we're going to have plenty of wonderful, esteemed guests, stakeholders. The program is going to be magnificent because there's so much to offer here in Dallas. You got to see our park system with over 400 parks, lakes, and things that you can get into. There are going to be many tours, but it's just going to be a festive occasion. I hope.
Oh, we lost her. She'll come back. Okay, do you all have a feel for this conference? It's going to be unbelievable. Cannot wait to be there. Been there before, and they do a dynamic job. All right, folks, we're going to move on to our first question. Here we go. The three of you have big plans and visions ahead for communities you serve. Tell us what will be your top three goals and aspirations for your agency in 2023. AP, let's start with you.
Thank you, Jody. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Well, as was mentioned, I've just joined the leadership realm in the city of Seattle as the superintendent for the Recreation and Parks Department, where Justin worked. It's an amazing agency and it's an amazing city. And we have a lot of good things going on. Some of the priorities that we want to focus is, and I think this is important for all cities. You know, when I look around Seattle and I see the tremendous, wealth and privilege through business and corporations of Google and Microsoft and, Starbucks and REI and things focused on the outdoors, I want to see how we can use those for our youth and developing some youth mentorship programs through our community centers to begin reaching into the pipeline so we can tell kids in Seattle that you have a place here to go beyond the city or your city involvement with rec and parks, that if you want to join one of these areas, you will know people. And connection's a big thing in this city as it is in others. So using that for our youth through our community centers, I think is going to be amazing. And we're really excited about that. So it's about youth mentorship, using our existing kids and exposing them to as many opportunities that they have in this amazing city. And like all cities, there are kids here in Seattle that still don't have the ability to get into nature, don't have access to certain areas, even living in an abundantly rich environment of outdoor space. So we want to create those opportunities and remove cost barriers.
AP, I've watched you over the years, you, especially in Los Angeles, where you were such a leader with the Olympic movement and LA 84. No doubt you will go to the ends of the earth to engage those youth. You always have. Thank you so much. All right, let's turn to Reneé. Reneé, talk to us about this first question about the 3 and your aspirations of goals and aspirations for 2023.
Well, of course, we have so many here in Dallas because there's so much to do. That is for sure. But I can say that for next year, for especially looking into 2023, we have 180 miles of trail and we're trying to get to 300. So that's going to be for sure. We're working on more trail development. As AP said, connectivity is really important to this city as well. Our trail partners are looking forward to extensions, and at this time we're working on renamings. Our trail system is something to see. I would also say our partnerships, we are committed to partnerships. Our budget is about $100 million, and our partners really help us between in-kind services and real dollars, doubling our budget. So we get another $100 million to invest in this park system, which we have, like I said, I think 408. It's always moving as far as how many parks we have. It's hard to keep up. But we have about 408 and of course over 20,000 acres. So we're really excited about our partnerships and continuing to leverage those partnerships. And of course, as I said, I got cut off a little bit, I'm sorry about that. But the NRPA conference, we all year are working toward what we're going to do, how we're going to make sure that we're ready for all of you. We're hoping to get to 10,000. That's our goal. I know we've had some 10,000.
We can do it.
Atlanta, was Atlanta maybe 10,000 and Vegas maybe? And so we're hoping that the DFW is going to bring in people from all over this country because it's so easy to get here with direct flights and it's affordable. So just getting ready downtown, just trying to make sure we're renovating some areas. Every place you walk through, we want you to have an experience. So for sure, those are all the things that we're going to be doing and working hard with our stakeholders, working hard with our park development. And I must mention before I get off that we are working with our underserved communities, right? DEI is really huge as to what we're trying to make sure that we're being inclusive, and we're working with everyone in equity as far as their access to parks. And so we're building this Judge Charles Rose Park. He was a pillar in the community, and we have actually partnered with Trust for Public Land, and we had a big groundbreaking. And so we're going to open this park in the southern sector, of which is majority minority, 40 acres. And it's going to be a beautiful oasis. And we just can't wait to get that open. So we got quite a few things, goals, projects, initiatives going on with the city of Dallas.
Well, as you can see, we had 2 Renees at one point because that's what this job takes. So I just want to compliment you. You're amazing. I tell you what, you'll reach them. There's no doubt. We're headed towards 10,000. I think this is going to be one of the biggest conferences we've ever had. When I was president, we were at 10,000. And when I was president of NRPA, no doubt. So onward to our 2023. Justin, bring us home on this one.
Yeah, well, I look forward to being in Dallas, and I hope you join Reneé, myself, Jody, Anne Marie, and AP in Dallas. So I think we've got 5 people right there. So
yeah,
all we all need is 9,995 more. So come join us in Dallas. I know I got an email today. I proposed to speak, and so they sent an email saying that they had an overwhelming response of sessions. So it's going to be big in Dallas, and I'm just excited for being in Dallas. So looking forward to being there with you, Reneé, and others on the call today. But our 3 focus areas are really rooted in this notion of engagement and employee empowerment. I think one of the things that I've been here in Atlanta for now just over 4 months, and how do we come along as leaders and managers and really support our employees through empowerment and engagement and provide a platform then to achieve the 3 areas over the next year. So thinking about training, thinking about setting the tone within the city of Atlanta. And one of those 3 areas is park maintenance and funding. 1 in every $5 spent in Atlanta on parks and recreation services comes from the nonprofit and partner sector. And so we need to think about is the appropriate balance of private and public dollars There's been calls by our partners to add more public resources. So putting together a business plan to advocate for additional resources is really critical for us this year, and the team's really focused on that. Next is creating recreation excellence by working with the mayor's office, working through using our equity data tool to identify areas of health disparities and creating recreation excellence and centers of choice where people are choosing to come to our centers through the different types of programs and offerings that we have. The team does a great job. We have one of the best deals in town at $35 a week for a Camp Best Friends program. But we need to continue to celebrate these activities, promote these activities, and engage community in how they can plug into our services. So creating recreation excellence. And then last, our mayor has signed on to the 10-minute walk. This last year, we acquired over 300 acres. Hopefully we'll require over 300 acres. We're trying to sign the closing documents before the end of the year. I'm sure some of you on this call know how that is, right? So hopefully we'll have 300 acres, but how can we connect both additional acquisitions as well as signing a joint use agreement with Atlanta Public Schools? We've had a long history with Atlanta Public Schools that they're celebrating their 150th anniversary this year. Used to be a city department. And we just hope at the end of this year, we'll be able to ink a joint use agreement, which will allow us to gain even more access to play spaces in many of our underserved communities that would turn some of our purple areas on the TPL Park score to areas that are now served. So really looking forward to those three things at the end of 2023.
Fantastic. I'll tell you, folks, there you go. You've got three top departments, best in the country, that are on tilt. You should have been able to hopefully pick up at least 1 to 2 that you can put through your department. Let's turn to our poll question, Anne-Marie.
Let's do it. Let's launch a poll question. So, we always like to ask the audience what's going on in their world. And we are talking about initiatives. So we want to know which of the following initiatives is in your strategic plan over the next 3 years. And this is multiple choice, so you can choose as many as you want. Is it opening a new park, adding new amenities to an existing park, increasing programming, expanding internal training for team excellence, increasing data-driven decision-making ability, DEI initiatives, applying for land and water conservation funding, exploring school park partnerships, getting CAPRA accredited, or something else. And this is one of those cases, guys, where we had 10 choices we could put in here, and we probably could have put in 50 of them. So if there's something that you're doing that we haven't mentioned here, and we are sure that there is, check that something else box and put that in the Q&A. You'll see that at the bottom of the chat window here, or the bottom of the Zoom window. There's that little sort of talk box thing for Q&A. You can open that up and you can put in what your something else is. And we also encourage you to use that throughout the show. If you have questions for one of our panelists or a comment that you want to make, feel free to use that. So let us know what's going on in your communities. What is kind of your strategic plan over the next 3 years? I know that there's a lot of strategic plans this year and next year that are kind of coming due for reassessment and doing new ones. So it's a great time to be asking this question and thinking about, the new ways that you want to serve your community. So it looks like everybody has done voting. I'll give you 5 more seconds here if you want to make any. There we go. Every time I say that, somebody comes in with some new answers. That's awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and end the poll, and I will share the results with you all. So it looks like increasing programming is number one. A lot of you are doing that. 68% of the audience. Adding new amenities to an existing park, 56% of you. And then it's increasing data-driven decision-making. DEI initiatives are both tied. 48% of the audience are doing those. The other ones that were popular: opening a new park, applying for land and water conservation fund, exploring school park partnerships. That's great. I'm sure Justin has wonderful tips on that since they've been doing it for so long. And that's kind of where you guys are at. So thank you for that. We'll have another poll. Our next poll question is going to be kind of fun. And then at the end of the show, we're going to have sort of an interactive, fun little one where you guys can shout out your answers in the Q&A box, just to do something different to end the show with. So thanks for taking the time to do that. And we'll be back to you with another poll question a little bit later. Jody, back to you.
All right. All right. Question number 2, guest panelists. Here we go. With an eye on 2023, what are top challenges you feel your department must address either internally or externally this coming year? And how do you intend to address these challenges? All right, let's start with you, Reneé. You're on mute. You're good.
Sorry. Well, we have quite a few challenges for sure in Dallas. It's a huge, urban mecca, and with that comes challenges. So I say our first one, of course, is maintenance. Just trying to make sure, how are we going to manage and maintain 400 plus parks? And as I talked about partnerships, our goal is we have over 100 partners that help us with, say, beautification, keeping the parks clean, removing litter. And our goal is to at least get to 150, 160. We're over 100, but we need to add at least 30 more groups this year to really help us with that. That park engagement is so very important in keeping the eyes on the park, helping us with if there's vandalism, just trying to make sure that people are out in the park to let us know what's going on when we're not there. We have over 370 plus staff. When we can stay, definitely having staff on board. Of course, everyone's had challenges with that. But it really helps us to have that park engagement in those beautification groups that help us with litter removal. We're doing a media campaign right now, just trying to make sure that everyone understands that keeping your park clean is part of your responsibility as well, just not our park maintenance group. And so this media campaign that we've been working on, we have billboards that have been across the city. We have mobile billboards with music going through the parks, and just really encouraging our users to be a part of us in keeping their park clean. It's all of ours. And so that's been one challenge that we're really working on, and those are some of the tools that we're using to do so. I don't know if this is a problem for your cities, but it's definitely a problem across America, and that is the unsheltered. How are we working with transitional members of the community that are in the parks and may be wanting to camp in the parks and kind of live in the parks and having their belongings and that thing and those type of things. We are working with, we have an Office of Homeless Solutions that we work with. We work with Dallas Water Utilities, with Public Works. So what we're doing is really engaging across the city, all of those partner groups that are dealing with the unsheltered on those properties. And I can't tell you that we found the solution, but what I can tell you is that we are consistently working on trying to make sure that there's transitional housing. So we're working with the Housing Authority, and we have so many community groups that are also involved. So how we move about and continue to work on this issue is really, really important to the mayor, really important to city council. And it is definitely, we're working on strategic strategies that are helping us across our park system with our park board. So that's another challenge that we continue to work on. And then of course, safety and security. Safety and security, and that goes along with our park engagement, having these groups involved. But this year not last year really, we were able to add marshals to our staff. And so not only do we have our park rangers, which they do a wonderful job. They're out in the park, they're ambassadors to the park. They, go through and talk to all the patrons in the park, let them know, how to use the park, just trying to make sure that the folks who are out there, how do we stay safe? We want to make sure that everyone's coming to the park to use it for its purpose, and that is to enjoy themselves and leisure and spending time with your families. That is the reason we should be in the park. And so, but we did add marshals, and so those city marshals now, we should be getting up to about 25 this year is our goal. And so that's been an added benefit to us because sometimes, there's some things that happen in the park that we want to make sure that we have the right personnel there to deal with those issues. If there's some chronic things that are going on, and we have been I would say, very successful as to some of the issues that were going or challenges that were going on in particular parks. We created a security plan, how we're going to respond to it. We get the community involved. We start doing events. And we can say it's almost like taking that park back, just trying to make sure that mischievousness leaves. And I'm looking forward to continuing to work with those Dallas City Marshals, along with our park rangers, along with DPD and the community, to make sure that all our park goers stay safe. And we did actually put a proposal in to talk about that. So I hope that we get that proposal approved by NRPA, because I think for sure that information and what we're doing will be a good thing to share with communities across the country, because this is not just a Dallas issue. I've heard from partners all across the nation as far as park security and what we need to do, as lighting, cameras, all of that. And we're working on this holistic plan to move it forward.
You know, Reneé, you really nailed this, and this is so great. I really do hope we have a session like that, what you're talking about, because we had, you know, Rangers too with our and ambassadors, but they were certified officers, you know, county and city sheriff, or county sheriffs and city police. Bottom line is, we are, and we want to keep our parks as safe havens and gathering places. We're so key to the community value and that community, just the integration of our family and stewardship of our parks. So thank you for bringing this up. This was a very, very timely. A lot of departments we're hearing are ramping back up with their law enforcement. So thanks again for bringing this up. Justin, let's turn to you.
Yeah, and I think building off of, you know, what Reneé mentioned, you know, park safety and public access is really critical to us in Atlanta, and being able to have a team of people that are addressing, you know, patron and neighbor safety in our parks. And so we're working on a proposal similarly to what Reneé's talked about, where we either use police officers that have retired, and we can recapture them into the system as a means of providing them, you know, a longer term of employment. They're still certified officers that can make arrests and address certain situations. And so, you know, I think there's a lot of different opportunities out there. We're also looking at our own park ranger team. So love what Reneé was saying. I think that's definitely an issue that we're focused on. And also, you know, how can we provide those pro-social activities to root out the antisocial behavior through different events and activities? And we're going to be assessing our kind of our top 20 parks that have public safety issues, and identifying partners and different groups that can help support both messaging as well as activation to lead to more positive outcomes in our public spaces. And then I also think it's a matter of having a conversation about what is appropriate park behavior, because quite frankly, I enjoy taking a nap in a park. And just because you may not have a home and you want to take a nap in a park too, doesn't mean that that's not okay. And so I think anytime we talk about public safety, we have to walk that balance, that parks are democratic spaces intended for the enjoyment of all people, regardless of housing status. And so we have to be really careful, I think, especially in these urban environments, not to criminalize homelessness, and make sure that we're partnering to build safe spaces, and also helping to communicate to community that, you know, if there's a behavior that is unsafe, we will address that behavior. But being homeless is not a crime. And I think that's really critical. And then I think also for us is funding, you know, right sizing either the services that we're delivering, or making sure that we have the resources to maintain our over 300 plus parks, and also looking at maintained acres versus unmaintained acres. And are there ways that we can shift some of our parks to have more unmaintained acres to reduce the level of service that we have to provide at a park to right size that maintenance. And then lastly, youth and employment, you know, and maybe they're together, but they're also separate. You know, we have a really, at one point we had over 20% vacancy rate in our park maintenance staff and over 40% on our forestry team. We cannot hire enough people fast enough in order to keep up with inflation. The cost of living in Atlanta is rising rapidly. And so that's a big barrier that we face when we think about being successful, is do we have the team on our staff in order to address the different situations that we're facing? And then I think also youth employment. We have issues with gun-related violence, and I love our police chief here in Atlanta. He does a great job partnering with Parks and Recreation. We have a really good relationship, and you know, he's always quick to say, you know, we can prevent most violent acts of behavior, but we can't prevent it when people choose a gun to solve a problem. And I think, you know, in Atlanta and other parts of our country, we need to be out there advocating as Parks and Recreation professionals that we provide ways for people to de-escalate and de-stress and find that Zen space that they're seeking, so that they aren't picking up the gun, they aren't choosing violence and whatever altercation they may have. And I think we have a role there to play. I don't know what specifically, but I think looking at yoga, looking at different youth activities is a way that we can help reduce gun violence in our community. And that's something that we'll be focusing on. And then I think lastly, kind of a pie in the sky thing that I've been talking with some people here in Georgia, Georgia Tech about is how do we think about climate adaptation? So if you know, climate change is real, it's happening. Atlanta's hot compared to Seattle, but Seattle did have a day in which it was 116 degrees a couple of years ago. And so, you know, we aren't going to be able to get away from the park worker being out in our park, you know, pruning bushes. And so how are we thinking about adapting the human body through either fabric or some type of suit in order to, you know, provide a safe working environment for individuals working in a hot environment? I'm sure this is something you deal with in Dallas, right? On a day when it's over 105,
Right.
it's difficult to tell somebody to go trim a bush, right?
You're right.
But yet we need to do it. So how are we helping to adapt the human body through technology to be ready for the future? I think that's something really critical that we need to address as Parks and Rec professionals.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very insightful. Thank you so much, Justin. Appreciate your input on this. AP, bring us home on this one.
Well, thank you, Jody. You know, listening to my colleagues speak, I think I'm just going to touch on two things that I heard from both of them. And, you know, one, I'll start with Justin, who was just talking about, you know, really talking about thinking about our employees in the recreation and parks world that we do. You know, oftentimes, especially as leaders, you know, we get so many mandates and directives from the mayor, the council, you know, our legislative bodies, and we have to deliver on those. And that's our job. And, you know, so we're constantly talking about things. I'll give you an example. We were talking about, and Justin might know some of this, some issues we have about getting some goals, I should say, getting to reducing our use of, you know, gas powered leaf blowers, getting to, you know, electric fleets of equipment. And so we've got all these goals and metrics, and we've got, you know, key performance indicators to achieve. But it can't be lost in the conversation that, you know, while we're, you know, spending all this money and pushing our staff to do all these things, you know, we have to look at, you know, where are our staff working? Have their headquarters been updated? Do they have the tools there to make it work, right? So a lot of times our decision makers, our policy makers, they have great ideas and they're important ideas, but they may not know the nuts and bolts of what it takes to achieve those things. And it's a real balance for a park professional. You don't want to give the indication to the leaders that you're not on board with their goals or that you won't deliver, because that's your job. But you have to also get back with your staff and say, you know, we're not going to do all of this at the sacrifice of you. And sometimes it's easy for all of us to forget that and to push people forward, but we want to advocate for our staff always. And so when Justin and others are talking about uniforms and things, it's so important, you know, it's so meaningful to our staff. And so I just want to encourage us all to remind that. And then picking up on what Reneé was saying about, you know, homeless issues and dealing with different people in the community, it reminded me that when she was talking about is about messaging, but also that you have to have the right person delivering a message. And, you know, and that can even be, you know, at the director level, at any part of your organization. Some of us are really good at subject matters and we're proficient and we can deliver that, but that doesn't mean that person should also go and deliver a message about, you know, encampment abatement or removal, because you may not have the skills to do that. So knowing the people in your organization and how to equip them for success and launch them in areas where they're good at, and then making sure that areas perhaps where they're not best equipped to be there, that you don't have them delivering the message as well. And that can even be the director. You have to look at yourself and see, who is the audience? How am I being received? Do I need to bring others with me? Should I stay silent here and let others talk? Really important in these spaces. So because our work is so broad in recreation and parks, we have many different things that we're dealing with: community members, land use issues, land development, recreation, homelessness. It's a lot of diverse audiences. So it's a reminder that we're using the right people, the right tools in our toolbox. Otherwise, the whole thing, you know, the message will never be heard. And so I want to just take those two things that my colleagues mentioned and encourage us all to lean into those.
You know, I just want to say to all three of you, this is so refreshing because the bottom line is you all are about, and we in the field are about humanistic, whether it's internal or external. You have just really gone into some of the most important parts of being a leader in our parks and recreation field, is to make sure we never lose the humanistic value of our employees and of course serving our communities. But boy, you hit on some really key issues here, folks. I hope you'll take, and it's hard not to lose it. Like all of you said, it's hard because we get pushed so hard. And we know we do one more thing, but we really have to reflect on that. Thank you so much. Great insight. All right, to poll question number 2. Here we
Let's
go,
do it.
Henry.
You know, it's Jody. Jody, I had the same exact thought. And it's one of the things that all during the show that I keep thinking about how, you know, we do occasionally have a small percentage of the audience that's not in park and recreation, and they're just here to learn from other industry professionals. And, you know, this is exactly the type of thing that, first of all, y'all are so humble. I mean, everybody in this industry is so humble. And yet to hear the things that you are talking about and the incredibly insightful way that you think about your people, your internal people, your public people, the, you know, the community that you serve, and looking at the world through each of those lenses so introspectively and so carefully to make sure that you're dealing with, that is something that I think there are a lot of people out there could learn to do better. And I think as the world is finally focusing more on DEI and inequalities and things like that, this is exactly the kind of thing that, you know, you start by looking at the world through someone else's lens. And it sounds really simple, and you guys do it every day, but there are so many people that could learn from that. So this is just another one of those moments that continues to happen on the show that I just think, gosh, if anybody watches the podcasts or the recordings after the show, like, this is a learning moment. This is an incredible learning moment. So
Absolutely.
thank you guys for sharing that. It's just incredible. Okay, now we're going to take a little bit fun. So I said the second poll question was a little bit more humorous. You heard us say this is the last show for Good News in Parks. We have been going on for 3 years now.
Yeah.
So we have just a fun little trivia question for you, and there'll be a couple more of these later. Over the 3-year run of the show, how many episodes aired? Was it 22, 32, 36, 38, 42, or 45? It's kind of a trick question. We didn't start right at the very beginning of 2022. Kind of started a little ways in. We've had some special editions, including the regular shows. We've been bi-weekly, we've been monthly. So I'm seeing the answers change as I'm giving you these clues. There's a lot of different formats. We even did one live. We did a live show, like a literally live show from the floor of California Park and Recreation, which was very fun and interesting. So a lot of different types of shows. So just curious what your thoughts are over the 3 years. How many do you think that we did? Got a couple last minute people voting here. And as I said, we're going to do some fun ones later. I've got kind of a slide that I'm going to show you rather than doing in this poll thing. So Jody and all the panelists, I'm going to look to you guys because we're going to hopefully have all the audience people shouting out their answers over the chat, and I will not be able to see those. So I'm hoping that you guys will help me by shouting out with some of those answers also. Stay tuned for that. It's going to be fun at the end of the show. All right, let's end this one and see what everybody said. Nobody said 22 and nobody said 45. So you're all right in that. It was not either of those two. Looks like the majority said 32. It was actually 38. We had 38 shows over the 3-year history. You can find those on YouTube, youtube.com/Playcore News. We're going to leave them up there. As I said, with what you guys just told us and shared with us, there's so much good learning across all of the shows. So we'll keep those up there for people who want to go back and learn from some of those. But that was it, 38. So there we go. There we have it. Jody, I'm going to turn it back to you and let's get going with our next question.
So Jody, and
Wow.
besides the two of you, has anybody registered for all 38? Is there like a long hauler on that's attending today? I'd love to.
We have had a lot of long haulers. I don't know. I think Jennifer on my team is on the call. She'd be the one that can confirm that. I don't think we've had somebody that wasn't part of our internal team, maybe, that's been on all of them, but we have had some dedicated viewers that have been on a lot of them for sure. So you know how it is. It's like meetings come up, things come up, life come up. People are more and more busy, especially now that we're kind of getting beyond COVID and everybody's sort of back to normal. So it's harder to attend live, but yeah, we've had some long haulers for sure.
Well, and appreciate Anne Marie, you making it available through your team, and our production team has been stellar, absolutely stellar. And the bottom line is we needed the podcast because we're answering constantly, where can I get this information? They hear it from a colleague and they're like, oh my gosh, we're having issues, or I need a little more information on that topic. And it has been great. So thank you for making that available for us, Anne Marie, because I know that was something that was a goal of yours from the very beginning. Yeah. Wow.
I go back and watch them, and I can't stand watching myself on camera, but I go back and watch them. I just kind of close my eyes and listen to them.
Yeah. Well, and I do, and before we go to question 3, I want to thank our first guest panelists, Rosalind Johnson. We know Rosalind, Baltimore County. Mm-hmm. We have Dietrich Stanford, who came out of Clayton, out of Jordan, Georgia, and then Diane Hoover, when Diane Hoover was at the city of Bakersfield. So again, took a risk. Well, now you see where we're at today. So anyway, thanks to everyone that appeared as guest panelists. You've been the stars. You're still the stars, and more to come in the future. And thank you for being there. All right, question number 3, panelists, here we go. You all are currently serving in very, very important leadership positions with nationally recognized urban parks and recreation agencies. What advisement and goals would you give to a fellow colleague who aspires to do what you're doing as a future position move in their careers? And I can't think of anyone better than you 3 to give us the pros and cons. Justin, start us out with this one.
Yeah, well, maybe as y'all heard in the introduction, I've worked in a number of places in a number of states. And so I think one of the privileges that I've had was, being able to go to college right out of high school, being able to work for an organization at the city of Wilsonville that helped to pay my way to get my master's in public administration. So I just want to recognize those 2 items. But I think at the end of the day, it was being able to just raise my hand. I remember a really specific instance when I had a supervisor, they were out of town. I got sent to a meeting with other department heads, and everybody in the room was looking for somebody to do work, and nobody was raising their hand. But I sheepishly raised my hand. I think I was an analyst, and I said, I'll do it. I'll do the work. And I was able to get to know all the department heads and able to understand all the different nuances and put together an impact fee study in that job. And I think it's being willing to go to some random places. If anybody on the call can tell me where La Pine, Oregon is besides myself, I would love to speak with you afterwards. Hit me up on LinkedIn. But people have said, where is La Pine? People have said, why are you going to La Pine? What are you doing? And it's really just looking at the opportunity from a different angle. By going to La Pine, Oregon, I was able to be the first executive director of a small rural community in Oregon. I had to move, and I think that's some of the sacrifices that you have to make sometimes, depending on how quickly you want to advance in your career. I think I've worked in 3 different states, 3 or 4 different states, and moved several times. And recently moved across the country from Seattle, Washington to Georgia with 2 kids, 8 and 12, and a wife. And I think the toll that takes on your family, the toll it takes on your relationships, I think you need to be honest with the people in your life as to what that means if you're going to make that move. But, my wife and I the other night, I've always just felt so blessed to be able to have all these different experiences. And we wouldn't trade it for the world to live in Colorado and Oregon and now Georgia and Washington. It's just Parks and Rec has been such a blessing in my life, and to be able to be on today is a real honor and share this with you. But happy to continue to mentor people. But I think it's really those things, showing up, being willing to raise your hand in a room that you're in, any room. It doesn't have to be with department heads, but any room you're in, being able to raise your hand and say, hey, I'm willing to put in the work to get the job done. That's what it's taken throughout my career. And then also just being willing to take some chances. Going to La Pine was difficult. Moving out to Georgia, it's been a lot of fun, but coming from Seattle to Georgia, my daughter said, Dad, why are you moving halfway across the country? I said, no, honey, I'm moving you all the way across the country. There's no halfway. We're going from one ocean to the other. And, but it's been so rewarding just to be here in Atlanta and to work with a great team here and to learn so much. So, but yeah, those would be my recommendations, is show up and raise your hand. So.
Oops, sorry.
That's okay. I will say, by the way, Justin, not only do I know where La Pine is, I have camped at the state park there, and it's awesome.
Okay, now that's funny because I live like 2 blocks from the state park. I used to run in that state park
Seriously?
all the time.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, that's a great park. If you guys, I'm just gonna say this, if you have not camped in Oregon, the smell of the trees is something that you can't get anywhere else that I've experienced. It's incredible.
And make sure you
It
smell
is.
a ponderosa pine tree, because it either smells like butterscotch or vanilla, depending on your scent glands. So,
Yeah.
like a tree.
Oh, wow.
This is true. I'm Camp Butterscotch, but yes, I
AP, please chime in on this one.
Absolutely. Well, one thing that I've learned is that, and what makes this profession great, is that the subject matter of parks and recreation is almost identical in every single city. You're dealing with, the same social issues, the same needs for access, the same needs for health and wellness for kids. How do you balance technology with getting outside, right? All of those things are in each one of our cities. So we have that common bond. And I think if you're preparing for leadership, and Justin is a good example of being able to pivot his skills in different cities, because he now has the subject matter expertise. So really understanding, the things that you're good at, but also in your city, understanding how local government works, understanding how public relations work, how conveying messages work. And as Justin said, volunteering for those opportunities as much as possible to strengthen your portfolio, and to be able to add a little bit more, every year to your skill set and what you're good at. And the great thing is, if you're in this profession already, there's ample opportunities to do that, even if you're working in one particular division or area, because of your constant connection to other people. I'll give a little tidbit of advice. It wasn't here in Parks and Recreation, it was more in the legal field. And I was applying for a job that required you to have a couple of subject matter expertise. And I felt I lacked 2 of them. And so I didn't know if I was really still a strong candidate or not. And the woman who was mentoring me, she did a practice interview with me. She gave me that question, and, I tried my best to answer it, and, sort of thought that the right thing was just to be, upfront and honest and just say, although I don't have the strongest subject matters in those areas, but I'm willing to learn and I'm a good learner, all of that jazz. And when she was doing the debrief with me, she said, here's what I want you to do on those 2 questions. She said, you may not have worked directly in that unit, but how many times have you been involved with a project in that unit, or in your organization? I said, well, many times. How many times have you consulted? What kind of relationship did you have with those supervisors? I said, a very good one. She said, so you are familiar with that area. You have an understanding and knowledge. You know how to get answers. You know what it takes in those divisions. She said, so highlight those strengths. And naturally, then you will obviously have to learn and do other things. So that sort of mentorship made me realize that, in an organization like Parks and Rec, and even as a director, you can't be a subject matter expert in every single field.
Exactly.
Right? And what I've learned is you have to be a little good and knowledgeable about everything. So I'll never be a master landscape design. Don't come for me for plans or an architect or how many square feet this should be, you know. But I need to have a basic understanding of how those things work and the challenges. And that's what makes our profession fun, and being in leadership, I think, really fun, because you get to wear all of those hats, but you have to know you're a team. And then lastly, I'll just say something too. You know, being a mentor to others is so important. Jody has been a mentor to me without me even asking her, and shoring me up. And it doesn't require, people think mentorship has to be a huge investment. It can be whatever you want it to be. It could be sending someone an email, giving them some confidence for the week. It could be meeting someone over the telephone once a month, or having a coffee with someone in your office, you know, every so often, or checking in. So mentorship it's so important, and we're never too old or too young to be a mentor or to mentor others. And so many people have helped me. I'm here because of others investing in me, and I want to continue to do that. And I am still open, because people will still need to mentor me in my career. So anyway, I'll just pause there.
Well, AP, I'm humbled by your comment. I just want to tell you, you know what? We can never forget where we come from. We can never forget as we rise to that top position or a deputy, because I've been there. I got to tell you, so many people help you along the way, and never forget that. And you have, all of you, you've helped so many people, and you're still helping. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. One other thing I got to tell you, so many people underestimate themselves when they're going for these type of jobs. You know, you nailed something. If you're sitting in that room and you have been around projects or whatever, you may not be the lead on it, but you have an inkling how to get to that end goal. Or if not, who to recruit to help you to get to that end goal. And your asset as a legal counsel is tremendous. So really glad that you kind of took that into the role of Parks and Recreation. We needed you to come into that leadership. Thank you. Reneé, let's go ahead and let's come to you, because I can't wait to hear your answer on this one.
Well, advice I guess that I would give, first of all, I can say this career that I've had over the last 30 years, I mean, it's just been a gift, just a gift and a dream. And so every time we get someone from another department and they come to Park and Recreation, or they come from another city, I said, I always tell them, I say, you've been upgraded. Because coming to Park and Recreation and being able to work in this field is a gift. I started in Michigan. I worked in a couple of cities, Flint, Michigan. I know you heard of that one. I've worked in crisis management, as well as management that has done the best planning as it relates to strategic planning as far as cities. I would say for especially young professionals, don't shy away from the small city. The small city can get you a level of experience that a lot of times when you come into a larger city, you're working in a unit, in a group. Whereas in a small city, you got to do everything. You got to do budget. You got to go set up the special event. You got to take the money at your door. Or now you got to set up the app. I mean, you have to do everything.
No kidding.
Yes, and working in a small township of which I'm from called Buena Vista outside of Saginaw, Michigan, they said, you know, my first job, I was a director. You know what I directed? Myself. I was the first director. Yes, the first one. So I got a chance to actually build the department because they had no staff. And so getting into partnerships with the school district, I mean, I just learned so much so that Dr. Waller, who was the director of Flint, he was like, well, you know what? Well, I got an opportunity over here. You ought to look at it. And I want to tell young professionals, you never know who's watching. And so just like Justin was saying, all the work he was doing, they will give you more. And that's how I was able to go over into maintenance. You don't see a lot of women, and especially a lot of women that look like me in maintenance. And so these are the opportunities that come to us that you have to be ready to take them, and don't doubt yourself, just as you were saying.
That's right.
You don't have to know everything. I have so many experts on my staff. These people are brilliant. I'm wondering why they let me be here. They are brilliant. So those are some of the things, just some of the small tidbits that I would say is, be ready for the opportunity. As Justin said, raise your hand, be willing to relocate. I came down here to Texas. I love Texas. It's been really good to me, really good to my family. And also, I always know Parks is my home. And so when I say somebody's looking, what happened to me in the city of DeSoto, I had been there for 12 years and the city manager left. And I had been the director for, a dozen years. And so the mayor came to me and said, we want you to serve as the interim city manager. And I'm saying, oh, there's some people who want to do that.
Yeah.
Right? I wasn't one of them. But she said, we just know we need this type of leadership. I told the mayor, I said, and I went through the process and I was hired as an interim, was there for almost a year as interim and did not apply for the position. And it's always because I knew where I wanted to be, work in your passion. Like I always said, I didn't know if I wanted to be a city manager, but now that I've been one, I know I don't. I love park and recreation. And so this has been a gift for me. Find you a star. And I mean, when you say AP, when he's talking about a mentor, find a star. There was a woman named Portia Phillips Anderson in the city of Pontiac. She was a star to me. Okay. And she cultivated, my career path in helping me and dialoguing with me. So those are kind of dream. And when you get to this level, at any level, think about not what you're going to get, but what you're going to give. And the higher you go in the organization, the more you can give. And that's what we're all here to do.
That's right. Wow. Well, this is just one of the best responses we've ever had, is someone coming forward like you three, and you've just opened up. Because here's so important about this. What you see is what you get, folks. What you see on the screen, these three, if you're at NRPA, I would highly recommend try to get 5 minutes with them. You just will not believe what you'll glean from them. You brought us something I can just share with you now from being a former director and a retired director. I did not want to be the director. My predecessor framed it for me. I understood it was my time to be director. I really loved being a deputy. I loved being a superintendent. That just wasn't my goal. But I got to tell you, there's many of you out there. We need you. Please step up. And we need you in these top leadership roles, whether it's a deputy, whether it's a director. Thank you so much, all three of you.
And I just want
All
to add on
right.
to what you said, Jody, like, and don't like discount your skills before you even apply for the job.
Yeah,
Your job is to
exactly.
apply. Day one, your job is to apply. It's other people's job to tell you whether you got the job or not. But if you take yourself out of that application process, you've already missed the boat. And so I tell people constantly, and I encourage everyone to apply. And by the way, we have a deputy commissioner job available right now, so please apply.
Yes.
But there is, like, don't discount your skills. As AP said, and Reneé as
That's
well,
right.
Jody, like, just, you have to apply for a job. So
Boy, no kidding. And you know what? You just never know until you walk that walk to do that application. Is it for you? And you'll know when you get into that interview, and they'll know too in the end. So, all right. Thank you so much. All right, Anne-Marie, it's over to you. Our
All
favorite
right.
time.
Let's do it. Our favorite segment, our final favorite segment. This is the opportunity where we let all of our panelists talk about somebody on their team and the difference that they have made to their team. We all are teams. Nobody can do it alone. And so this is just kind of that opportunity to let them talk about those folks and tell us a little bit about them. So Justin, we are going to start with you. Tell us about Adrienne.
yeah, so Adrienne Wright, she's our special events director, and having been here only 4 months, one of the first things that I was working on was kind of park safety and park reservations and getting to know that team. And Adrienne was welcoming with open arms, helped orient me. But the thing that she does that's so phenomenal is she's, the department's party planner, the department's cheerleader, just the department go-to person for a lot of things. And if any department has that person, you know what I'm talking about. They're really the glue that holds things together. And Adrienne is that person for Atlanta Parks and Recreation. She knows who to call, when to call, and where to call in order to get the job done. And I can't say enough about Adrian and just her passion for Parks and Rec, her passion to help make events successful. And I will say she's a perfect person for special events, because sometimes you have to say no, and she does a good job of saying no when you need to say no. And I just have a lot of respect for her. So I just want to recognize Adrian Wright and just the way that she makes Atlanta Parks and Rec the best.
That's awesome. You know, it takes a special kind of person to be a special events director. I mean, that is a lot of connections in a lot of different ways. And when you get a good one, that is a wonderful thing. So thank you for sharing that. All right, Reneé, talk to us about Chris.
Well, this is Chris McMaster. He's city forester, and he's now the interim area manager, but he manages pretty much the entire city as it relates to trees. And I've learned so much working with Chris. He has every certification under the book. This guy's brilliant. But what I would really have, since I've been here for the last couple of years, working with him and us working together on, he has a real interest in DEI and tree equity. You know, and this is really important to our community. And I just love the level of commitment that he's put in order to make sure that we're educating our community as well as our staff as it relates to tree equity, that we're embracing those communities who may have been not recognized at a point of time as to making sure that they have trees in their community. So we're doing our tree plantings all over the city. We have so much community engagement. He's doing classes for our arborists or our folks who want to be arborists. So the level of investment that he is creating for our department as it relates to staff and investing in them, his time and energy trying to make sure that they're getting certified and know what tree equity is and know that this forestation that we need to stay committed to is really important, along with educating all of us about emerald ash borer and what our response is going to be for that. I'm sure you all know what that's about. So I just want to say thank you to Chris and what he does. We're so proud of how he leads this department as it relates to trees in the city of Dallas Park System.
That is awesome. You know, I love that he's thinking of the equity side of that. There's a lot of studies out that show the health and wellness benefits, especially mental health benefits. We all think about the shade, which is, you know, the obvious thing, but just the mental health benefits of having trees in your community and your neighborhood. So that's really wonderful to hear that somebody's focusing on that.
Especially in Dallas, where it's 100+ degrees.
Right, right.
It's really important.
Yeah, whew, really important. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, AP, tell us all about Lori.
Thank you, guys. Well, here's Lori Chisholm, who works in our partnership and a lot with recreation and the community. I see Justin smiling right there because he knows who this woman is. What she embodies is what happens every single day in recreation and parks throughout the city. Some out of the unexpected city event that we didn't know about. Something's going down and Rec and Parks has to step in to make something happen. I remember a couple of weeks ago, all of a sudden I had a morning calendar appointment pop up about Vice President Kamala Harris. And I'm thinking, what does my new job and day have to do with the Vice President of the United States? Anyway, who happened to be in Seattle, and Rec and Parks needed to support some staging areas and get people together and work with the Secret Service. And we had staff who did that. And I got a debrief on that. And again, random park area. Lori here had a similar situation where we had teachers go on strike in the city of Seattle and bargaining units. And that meant that there were 2,000 kids who had no teacher in the classroom. And guess who was called to help solve that problem? Rec and Parks. And Lori led an effort with many, many people, and within days put together a plan to get places for kids to go, to come to community centers, to get meals, to make sure they had things to do. Again, Rec and Parks just stepping in. And so she's amazing. She's doing great work. And I just wanted to highlight her as an example of amazing work Rec and Parks employees do every single day.
I love that. Absolutely. That is just, and I love that when you sent in the first picture, I'm like, yep, that's the Seattle girl, all the rain on her hood there. I hear you. I grew up in Seattle, so I totally get that. Congratulations, Lori. Sounds like a really wonderful person to have on your team. Okay, so I told you we'd have some fun little trivia questions. Here's our good news trivia. So our first one, and I cannot see the Q&A, but we're going to ask you guys to do some shout outs in the Q&A of what answers you think are correct. And Jody, feel free to shout those out if you see somebody. Hopefully all will participate. What we want to know for the first one is how many states and provinces were represented during the 3-year run of Good News in Parks? So we had people come in, lots of people from single states, but unfortunately not every state were we able to get a representative. So there's one clue for you. So what do you think the answer is? Is it 22? Is it 32 states? Or is it 36? What do you guys think? Anybody got a guess on that one? Panelists, you can jump in too. What do you think?
I'm gonna go with 32.
Okay. I see Mark, you're right. Look at that. You guessed it. Mark in the audience said 36. You're close. We had another anonymous person who was right, said 32. So good job, you guys. All right. This one's hysterical because Jody and I, if you watch the show, you're going to know this one because we talk about all these crazy things that happen. We are live and
Exactly.
live things happen. All the live things happen. So which of the following things did not happen during a live show? Was it a computer malfunction, a angry, barking, crazy dog, a medical emergency, a torrential downpour and thunderstorm, or an incessant backup alarm on a truck? Which of the following did not happen during the show? There's only one. 4 of these things happened. What do you think? Any answers out there?
Medical emergency.
You guys, you are on top of it. That was it, a medical emergency. Thankfully, that's the one that didn't happen. But yeah, all the other ones happened. It was crazy times. All right, this is my favorite one because this is all about you guys. How many directors and special guests appeared over our 3-year history? Now, we did have a couple of repeats, people who came back for more than one show, but how many do you say that was? Was it 90, 104, or 120? How many directors and special guests appeared? And we had some special guests on some of our special show. We had some folks come in from NRPA. We had some specialists on DEI that came in as special guests to talk about that. So we're combining those all together. How many directors and special guests? What do you guys think? Jody's taking a picture. You're the best.
I know. I had to
You're
take
the
a
best.
picture.
Absolutely
This
love
is-
it.
This would scare me if we had ever started this now.
All right, here's your answer, guys. It was 120. And here's how I know. There they all are. So these are all the
Wow.
states that were represented. Here's all the folks that have been here. You will find yourselves on this map. There's Jody and I in our little tour car. We put that little graphic together for when we went to CPRS, and it has been a great ride. It has been a wonderful time. So we thank you all. We thank everybody in the audience for being with us. We thank all of our amazing directors who have been with us. It has absolutely been an amazing time. So, Jody, what do you have to say, girl? Final words.
Well, the bottom line is we've had the sheroes and heroes on this show. No less today, 3 more of the best of the best. And I just want to thank the audience. We've had so many rewarding just comments that you got me through the pandemic. You got me through my career. Thank you for giving me confidence. All those count. And that's what was our objectives of this show, was to help you. So I just want to say to you, Anne-Marie, great job. What fun. But really, seriously, the main thing is we were really helping the field, and that was the total goal of the show, and to showcase our country's best of the best. And I truly believe we've done that.
Absolutely.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much. Stacy, thank you so much for your kind words, thanking us for doing the series. says it's been a very meaningful and wonderful way to get energized about what we do, and our enthusiasm is contagious. Well, your enthusiasm is contagious to us, Stacy, and everybody else that watches and has been on the show. There is nothing like Park and Recreation. Y'all are rock stars. You make amazing things happen in communities, and we love you.
We love you guys.
All right. Bye, everybody.
We're gonna go out with some party music.
All right.
All right.
Turn it off, darn it.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
It's live. One of those live things. All right.
Thank you
Bye,
all.
guys.
Great
Thank you.
job.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.